Her body towered over me, a silhouette carved from steel and fire, yet her eyes glowed with something that stole the air from my lungs. I had only meant it as a joke, a playful wink across the bar, but the moment her golden gaze locked onto mine, I knew I had made a mistake, or maybe, just maybe, the best choice of my life. She moved like a storm-given flesh, armored shoulders glinting in the neon haze, every step sending tremors through the floor and through me. When she stopped inches from my face, I swore the galaxy itself held its breath. Her lips curled into a dangerous smile as her hand pressed against the wall beside my head, caging me in. Her voice was low, rich, intoxicating. "You dare flirt with me, little human? Bold. I accept your proposal." I thought I misheard her. Proposal. The word crashed through me like a shockwave. My mouth went dry, the glass in my hand trembling as her massive frame leaned closer, her heat wrapping around me until escape was no longer even an option. My mind scrambled. Had I just proposed to her with a wink? The crowd around us had gone deathly silent, eyes wide, as though they were witnessing the beginning of something sacred. I tried to laugh it off, raising my hands in surrender. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. Where I'm from, a wink is just flirting. A little fun, nothing serious. Her smile deepened, more dangerous now. On my world, she purred, such a gesture is no game. Only a man ready to bind his soul would dare meet a war goddess's eyes so shamelessly. Her finger traced along my jaw, a touch so light it sent sparks racing down my spine. "And you did it before witnesses." Bold indeed. The heat in the room grew unbearable, the weight of 100 alien stares pressing down on me. Every rational bone in my body screamed to correct her, to pull away, to run. But I couldn't move. Not when her scent of iron and wild spice filled my lungs. Not when her lips hovered so close I could feel the ghost of her breath on my skin. "Listen," I stammered, "it was just a misunderstanding. A wink, that's all. Not a..." Her laugh cut me off, a sound that rumbled through her chest and into me, deep and enthralling. "You tremble, but you do not cower. Even now, your heart pounds with fire." She tilted her head, studying me as though peeling back the layers of my soul. "Perhaps the stars conspired to place you in my path." Before I could argue, her hand slid into mine. My fingers vanished inside her powerful grip, her touch firm yet strangely gentle. A ripple of shock went through the room as she raised our joined hands, her voice ringing like thunder. "This human is mine. Let none challenge it." The bar erupted, not in laughter, but in stunned silence. My chest tightened as she pulled me toward the door, her strides long and unstoppable. "Wait, where are we going?" I asked, my voice cracking as I stumbled to keep pace. Her golden eyes flicked down at me, blazing with amusement and something I couldn't name. "To my ship," she said simply, as though it were the most obvious thing in the galaxy. "You will not be left here for another to claim." "Claim?" I yelped, my legs burning as I half ran beside her. The crowd parted like water before her, whispers rippling in our wake. Some bowed their heads in respect, others looked at me with envy or pity. I caught glimpses of towering alien warriors watching us with unreadable expressions, their gazes lingering on her hand gripping mine like a brand. She didn't slow. Through the winding neon-lit corridors of the spaceport, her pace never faltered, dragging me along as if I weighed nothing. My breath came fast, my heart hammering not just from fear but from something far more dangerous. Excitement. We burst into the docking bay, where her warship loomed like a predator waiting in the dark. Sleek and massive, its crystalline veins pulsed with purple light, casting the metal in an eerie glow. At the foot of the ramp stood 2 armored guards, their weapons gleaming. Their eyes widened at the sight of me, but Zalara lifted her chin, her voice commanding. "This human is my consort. He comes with me." They bowed instantly, no questions, no hesitation. I was too stunned to speak as she tugged me up the ramp. The hatch sealed behind us with a hiss, the hum of engines thrumming beneath my feet. A sharp realization struck me. I wasn't just being escorted. I was being abducted, courted, by an alien war goddess who thought I'd asked for her hand. The corridors inside shimmered with violet light, the walls alive with energy. Everything about the ship radiated strength and danger. Warriors we passed bowed their heads to her, but their eyes lingered on me. Some whispered in their own tongue, and though I couldn't understand, the tone was unmistakable. Curiosity. Disbelief. Maybe even mockery. At last, she led me into a vast chamber, the door sealing shut behind us. It wasn't a bedroom, but a throne room. Banners stretched from ceiling to floor, weapons glinting on the walls. At the center stood a crystalline chair, glowing faintly, as though alive. She released my hand at last, turning to face me fully. Her gaze swept over me from head to toe, slow and deliberate. "You are smaller than I imagined my mate would be," she said, her voice like velvet over steel. "But your eyes, they do not lie. You burned with fire when you dared wink at me. You will not deny it." My throat went dry. My knees wobbled, but I forced a weak smile. "You're really not gonna believe me when I say it was just a joke, huh?" Zalara's lips curved again, a dangerous softness in her smile. "There are no jokes in fate." She stepped closer, towering over me, her armor glowing faintly as though it pulsed with her heartbeat. "You are mine now. And I am yours." Her forehead lowered until it brushed mine, her golden eyes piercing into my soul. My breath caught, my pulse a frantic drum. "Do you fear me, little human?" she whispered. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to scream it. But the truth tangled on my tongue, hot and undeniable. Not as much as I should. Her smile widened, and her laugh rumbled like thunder. "Good." The ship shuddered, engines roaring as we lifted from the dock. The floor beneath us vibrated, stars beginning to streak past the viewport beyond the chamber. My stomach dropped. And in that instant, as the galaxy stretched before me, the truth hit hard: I wasn't going back. With a wink and a foolish grin, I had bound myself to a war goddess. And she wasn't letting go. The warship surged through the void, engines thrumming like the heartbeat of some enormous beast. I stood in silence, still dazed, as the stars stretched into brilliant streaks outside the viewport. The truth pressed down on me with every breath: I was no longer on familiar ground. I was a passenger, no, a prisoner, or worse, a claimed consort aboard the ship of a woman who could kill me with a flick of her wrist yet held my hand as though I was fragile glass. The corridor pulsed with violet light, crystalline veins glowing in rhythm, alive with alien energy. Warriors passed us, towering and armored, their gazes flicking to me with unreadable expressions. Some were curious, some hostile, some amused. I felt their judgment in every glance. But when they saw Zalara, their spines straightened, their eyes dropped. She radiated authority that burned like fire, and with me at her side, I could almost believe I belonged. Almost. At last, she led me to her private sanctum. The doors slid shut, sealing us in. The chamber was vast and austere, carved from shimmering crystal and steel. Weapons lined the walls, banners hung heavy with alien sigils, and a long couch lay beside a crystalline throne. It was part war room, part temple. And in its center stood Zalara, shedding the weight of command, her eyes softening as they fell on me. "You look pale," she murmured. "Do humans fear the stars?" I laughed, though it came out shaky. "No. Just 7-foot-tall goddesses who abduct them from bars." Her smile curved, sharp but amused. She stepped closer, each movement like a lioness stalking prey. "Abduct," she teased. "I did not abduct. You declared yourself. I only accepted." I began, then stopped. Explaining felt useless. My words were jokes to her, flimsy excuses she refused to accept. And part of me wondered if deep down I even wanted her to. Zalara reached out, brushing a lock of hair from my forehead with surprising gentleness. Her gauntlet was cool, her touch reverent. "Do not tremble," she whispered. "You stand with me now. No harm will come to you here." I should have laughed at that. Surrounded by warriors who looked at me like an insect, aboard a ship hurtling into unknown danger, harm seemed inevitable. But her voice carried a conviction that silenced every doubt. Against all reason, I believed her. The days that followed blurred together. She kept me close, introducing me to her officers, walking me through the ship's halls as though daring anyone to challenge her choice. Some did not hide their scorn, murmured words in guttural tones, sharp glances that cut like knives, but none dared speak against her openly. And in those moments when their eyes lingered too long, Zalara's arm would slip around my shoulders, her body shielding mine, a silent promise of protection. Yet it was when we were alone that the war goddess revealed her truest self. At night, when the weight of battle plans and command fell away, she would sink into the low couch, her armor discarded, her body weary. She would listen to me speak of earth, of rain on city streets, of coffee shops and laughter, of sunsets burning orange over oceans she had never seen. Her eyes would soften, her lips parting slightly as though drinking in every word. "You speak of such things with reverence," she whispered once, her massive hand enclosing mine. "On my world, we know only war and conquest. No one sings of the rain. Maybe that's why you need me," I said before I could stop myself. "To remind you there's more than battle." She tilted her head, golden eyes narrowing, but there was no anger there. Only thought. And then, softly, "Perhaps you are right." It was in those quiet moments, her hand brushing mine, her forehead leaning against mine, that I realized I was in deeper than I'd ever imagined. She wasn't just terrifying. She wasn't just breathtaking. She was lonely. And somehow, impossibly, she had chosen me. But peace never lingers. One evening, as I sat beside her, describing the way autumn leaves painted the forests in crimson and gold, the ship jolted violently. The crystalline walls flared red, alarms screaming through the halls. Zalara's head snapped up, her hand tightening around mine with sudden urgency. Her comm crackled with frantic voices. "Commander, enemy vessels incoming." Multiple signatures. In an instant, the softness vanished. She was the war goddess again, steel and fire. She rose to her full, impossible height, armor locking into place with a hiss. Her sword gleamed as she seized it from the rack. She turned to me, eyes blazing, every inch the legend whispered about across galaxies. "Stay here," she ordered, her voice sharp, final. "Do not move. Do not speak to anyone. Do not follow me." I surged to my feet. "Wait, Zalara, what's happening?" "Battle," she snapped, though her eyes lingered on mine with something softer beneath the command. "Do not fear. I will return for you." The ship shuddered again, a deep roar echoing through its bones. Zalara's hand rose, cupping my cheek for the briefest, tenderest moment, as though she wanted to say more but couldn't. And then she was gone, the door sealing behind her, leaving me in silence broken only by the distant thunder of war. I stood frozen, the weight of her absence pressing down like gravity. The alarms wailed, the walls pulsed with urgent red light, and my reflection stared back at me from the crystalline panels, small, fragile, terrified. For the first time since that foolish wink, the truth clawed into me. This wasn't a game. This wasn't an accident I could laugh my way out of. I was bound to a goddess, swept into a war I didn't understand, and the only thing tethering me to sanity was the hope that she'd come back alive. I pressed my forehead against the cool crystal, whispering words I never thought I'd say. "Please, come back to me." And as the ship trembled under the enemy's assault, I realized my heart was already hers. The silence of her absence was worse than the alarms. Every tremor of the ship rattled through my chest, each shudder reminding me she was out there fighting, bleeding, maybe even falling, while I stood here, useless, pacing like a coward in her sanctum. I pressed my palms to the crystal walls, willing them to show me what was happening, but they reflected only my own restless fear. Then the door hissed open. 2 of her warriors stormed inside, their towering frames bristling with urgency. "Consort," one barked, his voice sharp with disdain, "the commander orders you brought to safety." Before I could protest, their hands clamped around my arms, hauling me down the corridor. The ship shook violently, throwing sparks from the ceiling, warriors rushing past with weapons drawn. The air stank of ozone and smoke, a chaos I had never imagined outside a battlefield movie. My escorts pulled me toward a reinforced chamber near the ship's core, probably some kind of shelter. But fate had other plans. A blast ripped through the corridor. The world turned white, the floor lurched, and suddenly I was airborne. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs as I slammed into the wall. My ears rang, smoke filling my vision. When I staggered to my feet, coughing, the warriors who'd been dragging me were gone, either vaporized or lost in the chaos. Alone. Again. And then I heard it, the clash of steel, the roar of battle echoing from deeper in the ship. My gut twisted. Zalara was there, and I couldn't just hide while she fought. My legs moved before my brain caught up, carrying me toward the sounds. I stumbled into the hangar, and the sight froze me. Zalara stood at the center of carnage, her crystalline blade a streak of light as she cut through enemy soldiers who had breached the hull. She was magnificent, terrifying, every movement poetry in war. Her armor glowed with furious energy, golden eyes burning like suns. She was a storm incarnate. But even storms could break. They swarmed her, dozens against one. She felled them by the handful, but for every body that fell, 2 more closed in. She staggered once, a blow grazing her side, and my heart seized. "Zalara," I shouted. Her head snapped toward me, and that single glance nearly cost her everything. An enemy slipped past her guard, his blade arcing for her exposed side. She gasped, twisting too late. I didn't think. I moved. A fallen enemy rifle lay at my feet, heavy and humming with strange energy. I snatched it up, fumbling with the grip, and fired. The blast lit the hangar, slamming into the attacker's chest and sending him sprawling. My arms shook from the recoil, ears ringing from the shot, but I was still alive, and so was she. Her eyes found me through the chaos, blazing with something I couldn't name. For a heartbeat, time stopped. Then she roared, charging with renewed fury, carving through the enemy while I stumbled to her side, firing wildly. We fought together, if you could call my clumsy desperation fighting. I missed more than I hit, tripped over bodies, barely kept the weapon from recoiling out of my hands. But somehow, impossibly, we held. When the last enemy fell, silence swallowed the hangar. My lungs burned, my body trembling. I dropped the rifle with a clang, my hands raw and shaking. And then she was there, striding toward me, her chest heaving, blood streaking her armor. She cupped the back of my neck with her massive hand, pulling me close until her forehead pressed against mine. Her voice was low, trembling. "Fool," she whispered. "You could have died." I laughed shakily, my heart pounding against hers. "So could you." What was I supposed to do, hide? For a moment, she said nothing. Then her lips curved, not in mockery but in something softer, fiercer. Her golden eyes shone like fire as she whispered, "You are reckless, and mine." And before I could breathe another word, her mouth was on mine. The kiss consumed me, a conflagration that burned away fear, doubt, everything but her. She was strength and fire and wildness, but there was tenderness in the way her lips lingered, in the way her hand cradled my face as though I was both fragile and irreplaceable. I clung to her, dizzy with the taste of battle and blood and something achingly sweet beneath it all. When she finally pulled back, her breath was ragged, her voice raw. "You stood by me in battle. Among my people, there is no greater vow. You are bound to me now in blood, in fire, in fate." My heart thundered. I should have been afraid of the finality in her words, of the chains she was weaving with every syllable. But all I felt was the gravity pulling me closer, the realization that maybe I didn't want to escape. Her hand lingered against my cheek, eyes softer now, almost vulnerable. And then the alarms blared again. Her officers stormed into the hangar, faces pale with urgency. "Commander, enemy reinforcements are approaching. Their flagship is preparing to fire." Zalara's grip tightened on me, as if afraid I would vanish if she let go. Then she straightened, her voice snapping back into command. "Ready the defenses. Signal the fleet. We will not fall." But before she turned, she looked back at me one last time, golden eyes fierce yet tender. "Stay at my side," she said. "Whatever happens next, do not leave me." And as the shadow of the enemy flagship swallowed the stars, I realized the truth. I wasn't just flirting with a goddess anymore. I was in love with one. And it might get me killed. The enemy flagship filled the viewport like a second moon, a monstrous shadow bristling with cannons that pulsed with deadly light. The hangar trembled beneath our feet, the ship groaning as though it knew what loomed ahead. Warriors rushed past in a blur of armor and fire, their voices a storm of commands. And through it all, Zalara stood at the center, tall and unyielding, a pillar of steel and flame. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Even with death bearing down on us, she radiated a fierce calm that anchored me. When she turned her gaze to me, golden and burning, I felt the universe shrink to nothing but her voice. "Stay with me," she whispered, low enough that only I could hear. "If this is our end, we meet it together." Her words should have terrified me. Instead, they lit something in me I didn't know I had. For so long, I had drifted through life, untethered. Now, in the shadow of annihilation, I finally knew what it meant to belong. Not to a place. Not to a mission. To her. The deck shook violently as the first barrage struck. Crystal veins flared red, the ship crying out in protest. Officers shouted, shields groaned under the impact, and the air tasted of smoke and ozone. Zalara's blade gleamed as she rallied her warriors, her voice cutting through the chaos like thunder. "We do not yield. We do not kneel. Tonight, the stars themselves will bow." And then the breach alarms screamed. The enemy poured in, dark armored figures flooding the hangar like a tide of shadows. The clash was immediate, steel against steel, plasma fire scorching the air. I grabbed a fallen rifle, my hands trembling but steady enough. Zalara surged forward like a storm unleashed, her blade carving arcs of light through the invaders. I followed her, firing clumsily, desperate to keep up. The world became noise and blood and fire. I lost track of how many shots I fired, how many times I stumbled, how close I came to death. But every time I faltered, I saw her, Zalara, unstoppable, her golden eyes finding mine even in the chaos, urging me onward. And I moved. I fought. Not because I believed I could win, but because I couldn't bear to leave her alone. The battle raged on, enemies falling one by one. And then, through the smoke, the enemy commander emerged. He was massive, clad in jagged black armor, his weapon a brutal cleaver of energy. His gaze fixed on Zalara, and with a roar, he charged. They collided like titans, the hangar shaking with every strike. Sparks rained as blade met blade, their power rattling through the walls. I watched, helpless, as Zalara staggered under the sheer force of him. Her strength was legendary, but even legends could break. When the commander raised his weapon for the killing blow, I didn't think. I threw myself forward, firing the rifle with every ounce of desperation in my body. The blast struck his side, staggering him just enough. Zalara seized the opening, her blade plunging through his chest in a brilliant arc. His roar choked into silence as he collapsed, his armor shattering against the crystal floor. The hangar went still. The remaining invaders faltered, their leader gone, and Zalara's warriors struck them down. Silence rolled in, broken only by the hiss of cooling weapons and the ragged breaths of the living. My arms dropped, the rifle clattering to the ground as exhaustion nearly crushed me. And then Zalara was there, blooded but unbroken, her chest heaving as she strode to me. Her massive hand cradled my face, thumb brushing soot from my cheek. Her voice was hoarse, trembling with something raw. "You did not leave me," she whispered. "Not once." I laughed, weak and breathless. What was I supposed to do? Hide? Her lips curved, soft and fierce all at once. She leaned closer until her forehead pressed against mine, her breath hot on my lips. "Among my people, standing beside your mate in battle is the vow that binds souls. You have made that vow. There is no undoing it." My heart thundered, and for the first time, I didn't want to undo anything. "Then I guess I'm yours," I murmured. "If you'll have me." Her smile broke, not of mockery but of something deeper, something vulnerable. She kissed me then, not with the desperate fire of survival, but with a slow, reverent tenderness that sealed the universe away. Her hand held me firm, her lips lingering as though she was afraid to let go. When she drew back, she turned, raising her blade high before her warriors. Her voice roared through the chamber. "He fought beside me in blood and fire. By our law, by our honor, he is mine, and I am his." The warriors pounded their weapons against their armor, a thunderous rhythm of acceptance. The sound rattled my bones, but this time, it didn't feel like mockery. It felt like belonging. Later, when the fires dimmed and the dead were honored, she brought me to her quarters. The galaxy stretched endlessly outside the viewport, stars drifting in silence. She stood beside me, unarmored, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, her hand warm in mine. "When you winked at me," she murmured, eyes fixed on the stars, "I thought you foolish. I thought you bold. I never imagined. Her voice trailed off, softer now. I smiled, leaning against her, my head resting against her chest. Neither did I. The silence between us was gentle, filled with the hum of the ship and the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. And as I pressed my forehead to hers, I whispered the truth that had carried me through fire. Flirting with you wasn't a mistake. It was fate. Her golden eyes glowed, and her lips curved into a smile that felt like home. Then fate has been kind to us. The stars stretched out before us, infinite and unknown. But I wasn't drifting anymore. I was anchored in her, in us. And as her arms wrapped around me, I knew the truth. I hadn't just found love. I had found the one thing worth facing the galaxy for.